Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that's just everywhere right now, energy. I mean, with AI expanding like crazy and, well, everything going electric, the demand for power is absolutely skyrocketing. And, right in the middle of all this, guess what's making a big comeback in the conversation? Nuclear power.
Yeah, it really is resurfacing as a potential solution.
Exactly. And amidst this renewed interest, there's one company really catching eyes. NuScale Power Corporation. Ticker SMR, fittingly enough, they're a key player focused on something called small modular reactor technology, SMRs. So our mission today, our deep dive, is sort of pull out the key insights, help you understand if NuScale Power is really this nuclear promise for the future, or if it's maybe more of a risky bet.
A very interesting tightrope they're walking.
Okay, so let's unpack this first. Small modular reactors. What are they? Well, unlike those huge traditional nuclear plants we might picture, SMRs are much smaller systems.
Right. Think compact.
The core idea is they can be potentially manufactured more efficiently, designed to maybe combine several units or just serve a smaller need on their own. And NuScale's big goal here is to help utilities tackle that huge capital cost problem with traditional nuclear.
The upfront investment is massive, yeah, and the time it takes. Decades sometimes.
Exactly. So NuScale wants to sort of democratize the technology, make it more accessible, less financially terrifying up front.
And what's really fascinating here is NuScale's big win on the regulatory front. They were the first, and actually still the only company, to get approval from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, for an SMR design.
That was 2023, right?
That's right, 2023. And they even got a recent okay for the same design, just tweaked for a different power output level. Getting that kind of NRC clearance, it's a monumental hurdle for any nuclear tech.
Oh, absolutely, especially for something relatively new like SMRs. And that regulatory win, well, that's clearly what's fueled so much of the excitement around NuScale's stock. I mean, it's up, 250% in the last year? That's just huge. Way ahead of the broader market.
It definitely caught investors' attention.
And when you think about it, energy spending in the U.S. alone is over $1 trillion a year. So the potential revenue, if they can commercialize this tech, if they can actually build and sell these things, it looks enormous on paper.
That's a multi-billion-dollar if, isn't it?
It really is. But that enormous potential is fueling the hype right now. It also creates this massive gap between today's reality and tomorrow's really high hopes.
A gap you have to watch carefully.
Okay, so now, despite all that excitement, the approvals, here's where it gets really interesting, or maybe concerning. NuScale hasn't actually built any of these reactors yet. None.
That's the core issue, right? From design approval to actual deployment.
And maybe even more critical, they don't have any customer orders right now. 0 on the books. Now, management says they think an order will come by the end of 2025, but, well, that's still just a forecast.
Hope is not a strategy, as they say.
And there's more. They had this flagship project planned with a Utah utility group, started way back in 2015, but it got canceled just last year, 2023.
Ouch. Why?
Official reason: major cost overruns and delayed timelines.
That doesn't sound good.
No, that feels like a pretty big red flag, doesn't it? For the immediate viability of SMRs, even the ones with regulatory approval.
It absolutely does. And if you connect that to the broader industry, well, it raises a really important question about market acceptance. Look, even the big established companies designing traditional nuclear plants, stuff that's worked for decades, they still struggle to get utilities to commit the huge sums needed for new builds.
Right. It's always a tough sell.
So imagine trying to sell a completely unproven technology. Okay, it's got NRC approval, but no real-world operational track record. That's an incredibly hard sell for a cautious utility company, and definitely for their shareholders. The risk profile is just different.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then you look at NuScale's actual financials. It paints an even clearer picture of that challenge. They've brought in a little bit of revenue, sure, about $49 million over the last year.
Okay, where did that come from?
Mostly from a study they did, looking at maybe repurposing an old coal plant site in Romania. Interesting, but not reactor sales.
Right, consultancy work, essentially, not core product revenue.
Exactly. So fundamentally, people see them as a pre-revenue startup. No actual product sold to a customer yet. And on top of that, they're burning through cash, like really fast.
Fast.
About $98 million in negative free cash flow over the last 12 months.
Wow, so nearly $100 million out the door, more than they brought in.
Yeah, which means they constantly need more money, right? Fresh capital just to keep the lights on and development going.
Which explains their financing strategy. They're constantly raising money from the capital markets, selling more stock.
Mm-hmm.
And the direct result of that, their shares outstanding number just keeps going up and up. Each new share issue basically slices the ownership pie thinner for everyone who already owns stock. It dilutes existing shareholders.
And that dilution is going to be a drag on long-term returns,
Yeah.
right? Even if they eventually succeed.
Absolutely. It's a significant headwind investors need to factor in. You're constantly fighting against that dilution effect.
And we also need to remember, even if, let's say, they signed a contract tomorrow, it still takes years, many, many years for any nuclear plant, SMR or not, to actually get built and start generating power.
We're talking a decade, maybe more. It's
Yeah.
not like flipping a switch.
Yeah.
Contract signed today, power in 10 plus years, maybe.
Right. So patience is definitely required.
Immense patience. And all of this, it brings us back to the stock's valuation. NuScale currently has, what, an $11 billion market cap?
Around there, yeah. It fluctuates, but it's hefty.
Okay, so the sources we looked at are pretty clear on this. For that valuation to make any sense, for shareholders to get an adequate return, the company eventually needs to be generating billions with a B in annual revenue.
That's a huge leap from $49 million in steady revenue.
It's an enormous leap. It suggests the market isn't just pricing in some future growth, it's pricing in, like, massive global success, dominance almost.
A huge bet on the future, basically.
A huge bet. So when you stack up all these hurdles, we've talked about the lack of builds, no orders, the cancel project, the cash burn, the dilution, the long timelines. NuScale Power stock right now looks like a highly risky proposition. High risk, potentially high reward, but definitely high risk.
So, okay, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening? We've got this company, NuScale, with unique NRC approval of first mover edge in SMRs, you could say, and this massive, massive potential revenue if they crack the code.
Right, the potential is undeniable.
But on the other hand, they are wrestling with these really significant commercialization problems. That canceled project looms large. Questions about cost, about timelines.
And the financial burn rate, needing constant cash infusions.
Exactly. It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? Promise versus reality right now.
It really is. And, knowledge is most valuable when you actually understand it and apply it.
Mm-hmm.
So as you think about NuScale's prospects, try to weigh both sides we've discussed, the innovation and the market buzz against those very real commercial and financial hurdles. Consider the promise, but also the practicalities of actually delivering.
That's a good way to put it. And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over. As the world keeps needing more and more energy and we urgently need new power sources, what does it mean if innovative tech like SMRs, even promising ones, face such big challenges getting to market? What are the broader implications?
And conversely, what if they do beat the odds? What if NuScale or someone like them actually succeeds against these hurdles? How would that fundamentally reshape energy, reshape investment around the globe?
Lots to think about there.